Born in South Africa, how did you get into race riding?
Oh, it's wasn't quite on the menu, as I can call it like that. You know, pretty young age, wasn't quite sure what you're going to do as a living, and been with my family, being a farming family, and my dad used to play polo cross. Always around horses and animals, and through some friends of mine, we met up with a breeder from Durban back in South Africa, and he sort of suggested the academy to me, and went for a couple of interviews, and before I knew it, I was at the academy and starting to learn how to ride.
What was it like back then in the early days? Who did you start out cutting your teeth with and riding for back in South Africa?
Look, at the time when I was there, it was quite competitive. You know, we had some of the big names like Pierre Strydom, Dougie White, and Anton Marcus, Felix Cassie, Jeff Lloyd. You know, those guys were the real big guys, you know, sort of chasing the championships at the time. So, you know, you had some real big names to really look up to, and being able to ride around and with those guys was a real fortunate to be able to do that.
So you were riding in South Africa for about 10 years, and you got an opportunity to come to Singapore for, I think, a 2-day licence. You fell in love with the place.
That's correct. You know, I rode a bit for Patrick back in South Africa, and he allocated himself here in 2001. And in 2003, they had the Raffles Cup, and he asked me to come over to ride one horse. It was called Q Expression, and he only ran a place in that race, but I really enjoyed the scene here. Rode a winner for Laurie Laxon, and just really enjoyed it, and then sort of got into contact with the club and applied for a license the following year, and ended up getting that, and we've been here since then.
So that year later, you came back, you relocated to Singapore, and your first year, you were champion jockey.
Yes, quite ironically, you know, at the time they were only giving us like 9 months visiting permits, so I only fulfilled my 9 months, and then I was signed up to Michael Clemens, and did my last 3 months with him, and at the time we had quite a good run, and ended up winning the championship, which was my first championship overall, and it was really a good achievement. You know?
So what was going through your mind after that first year? You arrived here, you're champion jockey, you must have got on the back of some great horses.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I really rode some nice horses here, you know. Even in the first year, I got into horses like Surveyor. He ran second in International Cup, you know. A horse called YB, he won the Lion City Cup, and you know, a couple of nice horses through Patrick, you know. It was nice at the time to obviously being able to ride very light. You know, I was getting a lot of opportunities, and went to Dubai for one stint with Laurie with a couple of horses, not very successful, but it got me some good opportunities to get around.
Well, on Laurie, your first Group 1, as you said, was on YB back in 2007. That must have been a great thrill for you. Yes,
definitely. I mean, he was a great sprinter at the time, and you know, to ride for a guy like Laurie is always very good, you know, because, you know, he's got good quality horses, and especially in the big races, and I was very happy to win that race for him.
Time passes really quickly. We fast-tracked to July 2007, and you'd already notched up 500 winners here. That must have been quite surreal for you.
Yes, you know, I think I came over to Singapore with only around 750 winners, somewhere around there, and you know, back in South Africa, the guys are riding about 180 to 200 winners a season, where over here, my first championship, when I actually won the championship, only riding like 55 winners. So, you know, the amount of winners here wasn't as many as back in South Africa, but, you know, for me to pick up the half a milestone so quickly was actually quite an achievement as well.
You formed an incredible association with your compatriot Patrick Shaw. How did that relationship come about? Was that something that was set in concrete before you got here, or is it something that's really evolved while you've been here?
Well, it's obviously got better and better each year that we've been here. You know, like I said, I rode for him, but second choice in light rides behind Johnny Giroudis back in South Africa. And when I came over here my first year, Johnny was still riding for Patrick. And after a couple of years, when I was freelancing, I got to do a bit more work for Patrick. And you know, we really get along well, and we've had a good association so far. And you know, things are really going nicely.
You've ridden some great horses in your time here. You've ridden Revolt for Michael Clements and Gingerbread, the champion 3-year-old for Bruce Marsh, but is there a better one than Rocket Man?
I think it's going to take a long time and a real good one to top him up. You know, he's a real character, and he's a great individual, and he's given me some great moments, and you know, he's the type of horse that in the mornings, if you just go up and feed him a carrot, it's enough. You know, like he's a real individual as a horse. You know, you can really get on with him well, and I know him so well, and it's been a great privilege for me to be associated with him.
He's got a real personality, that horse, hasn't he? Because we see him come out here on the tracks some mornings. He's very quirky.
Yes, you know, he'll go out there and he'll have a look around, and he'll stand and he'll take his time, and Like I say, he's a real character, and he's got his ways of doing things, and sometimes you just got to go with him and see how he likes to do things. But you know, he's on his way back now from a long layoff, and you know, he's busy building up to make a comeback. So everything seems to be on track at the moment.
What's he like to ride? Because he seems like a horse that gives 110% all the time. When you're on his back, what sort of feel does he give you?
Yes, definitely. I mean, some mornings, you know, he gets a little bit keen. Now, you know, after he's done a bit of travelling, he's got a bit keen now in his cantering work, so we try and take him up slowly up the hill, you know, change it around a bit, you know, different scenery with him. But I mean, when the times come to gallop, he really gets down to his business and gives it his all, you know. So that's why you never really see him galloping with other horses and companions, because he really does everything you ask from him.
We all know that he can't race forever, but there seems to be possibly an heir apparent in the wings there with a horse like Atto, who looks to be a real exciting type horse.
Yes, definitely. I mean, he was a real exciting horse coming along. You know, we got him from the South African breeders, and they sent him over. And he's a horse that has given me one of my great highlights as well, with the Chris Fly. So, you know, of course, Rocketman wasn't around in that race, but in his own right, he still lived up and won the race in good fashion. And he's also had a bit of a spell at the moment. And he's probably going to be ready to return for the Chris Fly again this year.
You're a natural lightweight sort of jockey. Is that just something that comes natural, or do you have to actually work on that?
Very, very fortunate. I think probably a few other guys are very envied about it. I mean, I can go and have my breakfast morning of and meal night before racing. So I'm very fortunate that I can walk around at about 50 and a half kilos. And, you know, sometimes when you get down to 50, you just got to take off a couple of pounds. But for me, it's not a real struggle, and I'm very fortunate, yes.
Outside of racing, what does Baron Vorster like to do with his time?
You know, in Singapore, you have a bit of time on your hand, only because we're racing on Fridays and Sundays. And although we do track work every morning, you like to get out during the day. I like to get out once a week, go play a bit of golf with some of the other guys. It's been a passion of mine that I really enjoy. And of course, I've built up a family now. My wife and my little boy, Brendan, he's up here with us as well. And I mean, you try and spend a bit of time with him as well. And I've taken up a bit of mountain biking in the last year and a half, and I really enjoy that as well.
Now, I know you touched on your golf, but I think you're probably being a little bit modest because you're quite an accomplished golfer.
Yeah, like I say, I really enjoy it. You know, everybody's like got a hobby, and for me, that's my real hobby. You know, probably don't get out as much as I would love to, but you know, considering the Singapore with the weather and the climate, you know, so much rain and that, but I really try and get out as much as I can and just enjoy it, you know.
I know you like to get out with a few of your fellow jockeys and play. Who's the biggest bandit on the golf course?
I play quite a bit with Johnny Powell and Greg Cheen and a few of the other guys that are around, and we've got a nice sort of four ball that goes around every week, and one week money goes one way and then next week the money goes the other. So, but it's a real enjoyment, and it's something good to take your mind off racing and just think of something else as well.
Not wanting to put you into a quick retirement, but what's the future hold for Baron Vorster? Where would you like to go?
Yeah, it's you know, it's quite a bit of a thing that's been sitting in your mind a little bit for the last couple of years. You know, I've been in Singapore now, this is my 10th season, so I've really enjoying it here, and I would like to stick around here as long as possible. After that, it's a big question, do I go back to South Africa, or do I try and maybe go across to Australia, or maybe a short stint in Hong Kong maybe before, you know, the road gets too short. So yes, you know, I would like to still venture somewhere else and try and see what else is out there before I think about that.
What about a career as a trainer? Would that appeal to you at all?
Look, I've always enjoyed working in the yards. Back in South Africa, when I was an apprentice to a guy called Terry Lowe, a very close friend of mine, he taught me very, very much about racing and yards and training and riding as such as well. And you know, from a young age and as an apprentice, I've always been in the yards, and through my whole career, I've always been associated with the stable and spent time in the stable. So, you know, for me, it's not something that I wouldn't consider, but at the moment, I don't see it happening like straight away after riding. Yeah.
And finally, what about a horse we might be able to follow that you've been riding recently up here into the coming season?
Well, in our yard, we haven't really got something that's sort of coming through the ranks. We've got some young 3-year-olds that are sort of stepping up a little bit. You know, horses like Super Kenny, we've just tried to change his racing pattern. He's sort of come well a little bit. And horses like Dream On, you know, you can't call them real champions as such in the making, but they're going to be interesting horses to go along with.